I had kind of toyed with homeschooling every year, but we just kept putting our kids in public school, and I think that was the right decision. I think that it would have been very difficult to homeschool. Up until now, our youngest is finally kind of reading and writing, and he's playing more independently. I think all in the fullness of time, and I think that it was not the time before, but back in March and April when our lives just got crazy and I was not enjoying our family, I was not enjoying motherhood, I was not enjoying anything really, that God birthed the idea of, okay, it's time to homeschool. And I was working part-time, and my company decided to close down my department, and so which ended up being a huge blessing, because I think it would have been really difficult to homeschool with my current job that I was doing. It was only part-time, working from home, but it still would have been difficult to homeschool and have my job. So that ended up being a blessing. So I began praying about our finances, because homeschooling is a huge financial sacrifice. Not only does homeschooling cost money, but it keeps me from working. It kept me from working, and so it's kind of like a double whammy. It costs more money, and we didn't have as much money because I wasn't working. Excuse me. And so right after God birthed the idea of homeschooling kind of in my heart back in March and April, a new church called my husband, and a long story short, we ended up feeling called to go to this new church, and they offered a little bit more than my husband was making at our previous church, and it was just almost exactly the amount that I had been making with my part-time job. And so God kind of covered the finances, He took care of that. And I think that if we had stayed at our old church, I don't know that I actually would have taken our kids out, because it's a scary thing. When you've been doing public school, that's familiar, it's easy. Taking your kids out of that environment and choosing to homeschool and commit. But it was a great time because we were already moving. We were already going to be pulling our kids out of a great familiar environment. And so I thought, okay, now's the time to try. If we're going to do it, now's the time. And so I immediately knew that I wanted to do Classical Conversations. It's a nationwide co-op. You can read more about it, classicalconversations.com, the theory, the methodology behind that. So I looked up some classical conversation groups. There's 4 in our area, and I contacted them, and only one of them actually had room for our family. And so we joined the co-op. They needed a tutor. They asked me if I would tutor, and so I said yes. You get paid a little bit to tutor. It almost covers the tuition of Classical Conversations, and so that helps kind of financially too a little bit. And so this year I have no idea what's going to happen with homeschooling. I have no idea if we're going to do it next year. I just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are supposed to homeschool this year, and I've committed to this year, and we're going to see what happens. And so I am going to try to be chronicling our journey with homeschooling and making some videos, just because I know that it's going to get hard, and I know there are going to be days that I regret homeschooling, that I might be tempted to send our kids to public school, and I want to remember why we are homeschooling and the reasons that I pull my kids out of public school and why we want to homeschool. And so I'm hoping that I want to kind of show and share kind of how homeschooling is shaping our family culture, what it's doing, kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and about homeschooling, and just to kind of as a way to remind me why we're homeschooling, and then also kind of as a way just to look back on this first year of homeschooling and to kind of see what God does in and through it. So thanks for listening.